with the discussion happening in the media of who is going to be the next pope, I just put together some discussion points on possible cardinals who might step out as the next Pope Francis II or Pope John Paul III, Pius XIII, Benedict XVII. Who knows? It'll be interesting. John the 24th, Paul VII, Leo the 14th. We'll see. It's all speculation at this time. It's going to be a very interesting time. And I just put together some slides, some discussion points on who I think will be the next pope. Whoever it will be, you know, popes come and go. And that's the reality. Different popes come, different ones go. And so we are called to, you know, as a family, accept whoever is elected in the next couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting. One thing to note, if this goes on beyond 3 days, it's going to be interesting who is elected, because it will show that there is a lot of disunity in the College of Cardinals. So I think they'll want him elected pretty quickly, if I'm not mistaken, on a Friday. No, next Friday. So we'll see. If it's not next Friday, it will drive questions. So we'll see. Here's some of the candidates that I think will be elected Pope of the 133 cardinals that will enter the Sixtine Chapel. And again, this is pure trivia. It's just my analysis of the college, and see who will be the next Pope. Anyway, God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye. So I've done a list of the 133 cardinals that will enter the conclave next week, and it's going to be an interesting time. Of the 133, it's interesting to look at we have 13, if I'm not mistaken, that are 79, and had the conclave happened later this year, instead of 133, you would be possibly looking at 123 or close to 120. So it's very, very interesting. Some of these figures we never thought they would be at a conclave, like Father Timothy Radcliffe, who isn't even ordained a bishop, and Cardinal Robert Sarrat was weeks away from not being in this conclave. So it's kind of fascinating to see who will be the next pope. Now, who do I think will be the next pope? So I'm going to rule out the 78 and 79-year-old cardinals. I'd love to see Cardinal Robert Sarrat as pope. Absolutely would love to see him, but I'm not sure how much support he has among the cardinals, and also his age. And if he was to be elected Pope, he would be facing into it, in his 80s. So I'm not sure that they would elect him, but he's definitely a holy man. I don't think, for example, if we look at the Argentinians, I don't think any of these Argentinian cardinals will be named a Pope. Because we've already had one. And I don't think, going down to the United States and United Kingdom, I don't think any of these will be named Pope, bar Robert Francis Prevost, and I'll give my reasonings later. But Radcliffe, Nichols, Gregory, Burke, Supich, DiNardo, Harvey, Dolan, Roach, Tobin and McElroy. I mean, way too liberal. Some of these are way too liberal. So, the same as with we've seen with others. So I don't think that they will make the cut anyway. So if we look at where will the next pope come from, I mean, one to watch, and I'll go through this later, maybe is the Bishop of Stockholm. But in reality, you're looking at somebody aged between 60 and 70 who will be made pope, because popes generally tend to be in their 60s when they're made pope. That's generally the average. Mind you, we tend to live longer now than we did in previous centuries, so that rule doesn't work. But in general speaking, like up to John Paul II, they have been in their 60s. and it's an office that requires a little bit of energy so that you're not going into it as in your 80s. And so I think it's going to be between Parolin and Pizzaballa. I mean, that's the group. I think in this set of figures that you see before you, I think in there you will have a pope elected. It could be Parolin, it could be Zupi, Grec, Tagle, Lacroix, Angel Fernandez, Artime, Pizzaballa, etc., etc. Could be. Now, if we go down to the younger ones, I mean, we've got he's not Roman Rite, so I'm excluding all those who are not of Roman Rite, given that we haven't had a pope who hasn't been a Latin Rite cardinal, bishop, person for, well, God knows how long. So, not that they could go, of course, and elect the Eparch of the Saints of, the Cardinal Mikola Bichok of Australia, who's from Ukraine. Of course, they could elect him, but it's very, very doubtful. And I doubt they will elect a 50-year-old Giorgio Marengo, who's an apostolic prefect in Mongolia. So I'm just relating the fact that some of these are way too young to be elected pope. And so we're really going to, I think, from 59, 60 up to 70, up to Cardinal Parolin. So, I mean, that's my prediction on who will be elected pope from the 133. But I'll go through some of my favorites after this. I'll just bring up the slide here. So here are some of the cardinals by alphabetical order. So of the 100, and there's 135 in these slides, but two of the cardinals are not traveling for health reasons. This was I believe it was EWTN who put this together and circulated. I saw it going around WhatsApp and that's where I got it, from WhatsApp anyway. I saw it on X as well. So it's a good slide to see the different cardinals who will be elected. So the two cardinals that are not coming is Cardinals Canizares and Cardinal Gnu from, I think he's from Nigeria. So these two cardinals have pulled out. They're in their 78, and of course Cardinal Betju is also pulled out. And so you get to see the faces of these men that are coming. Some of these are, you can see, have different cardinal dresses and stuff, and that means like Cardinal Bichok, they're Eastern Rite, or Syro Malabar, Syro Malankar, or different rites in the church, but most of these are Roman Rite. And so, just to go through some of the main papal contenders. So one of them is Cardinal Peter Erdo, long been spoken about as a possible papabile. He's Hungarian. He is the youngest of the last 5 voting cardinals created by John Paul II. He's fluent in Hungarian, English, Italian, French, and Latin. He's a canon lawyer. He's a Marian cardinal, and he has long pastoral experience, but may not have the support of the cardinals, as he is seen as traditional. And a personal note, Flame of Love, something to watch. Just watch that space. I mean, he is well known in the church, and they had the Eucharistic Congress over in Budapest not long ago, and so he's widely known in the church, and I would say respected. Pier Battista Pizzaballa. I would not have even thought of putting this guy in the list as a papabile. But the reality is, since the invasion of Gaza, he has shot to fame in the church. He's been on the news. He's been around the church, and he has a lot of leadership qualities. you just can't just ignore them. He would have a wide appeal to church unity. He has lots of contacts in the Arab world, the Jewish world, the Eastern Catholics, because he's worked in Jerusalem, and anybody that knows Jerusalem knows, you have to be able to work with the Armenians and the Greek Orthodox and the Orthodox and all this. So he is shot to fame, especially when he offered himself in exchange for some of the hostages that were taken on that October attack in Israel from Gaza. He understands liturgy very well, because he's in an area where liturgy is, you have all these different liturgies being offered in the Holy Sepulchre. While Italian, he has lived for decades outside of Italy, and he speaks English fluently, has extensive pastoral experience, and is loved by his community. Expert biblical scholar, he has risen to fame since the Gaza war. And I suppose the question is, Petrus Romanus. I mean, the last Peter to go to Rome from Israel was St. Peter. So, Pierre means Peter. Pierre Battista, Peter Baptist. So, just somebody to watch. I mean, we cannot ignore him. And he has energy, he has appeal, he has leadership, and he has global status, and he is could be a great pastor for the church. So, we'll park it there. Just have to look at it. Cardinal Tagle, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, I did a video on him a few years ago on my channel on the Cardinal profiles, and it has got the #1 views. I think it's 150,000 views or something like that. So, and during the last conclave, I thought maybe he would be a papabile at the time, like a young John Paul II. So he was created by Cardinal by Pope Benedict, and he has the longest Wikipedia bio of any cardinal, and his PR and everything is managed by the Jesuits. I mean, there's not much more I'm going to say about him in the sense that he has extensively been pushed for the papacy. If you're talking about a campaign for somebody to be elected Pope, you've got Luis Antonio Tagle. He's very much seen as a Francis II candidate, Asian Francis, which is interesting because he was created cardinal by Benedict, but I think he'll be his own man. But I wouldn't be surprised if he steps out in the loggia and he took the name Benedict XVII or something like that. It would just be interesting. But I'm just saying that of all of the candidates, he has the most extensive Wikipedia entry. You just go and look at it yourself. So and he's got lots of leadership experience. Like he was bishop, archbishop, apostolic administrator of Manila, Archbishop of Manila, and then he's a prefect for the Congregation of Evangelization of the Peoples, and president of Caritas International, etc., etc. So, let's face it, this guy has been prepared for the post. He's been brought to Rome. He's in the Curia, etc., etc., and he is definitely somebody to watch. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevos. He is the only American that I would see possible that you would. How would you say, that could become Pope, and he was the head of a religious order, the Augustinians. He speaks fluent Spanish, even though he's American. He speaks fluent Spanish and Italian. Extensive pastoral experience in American, Latin America. Head of religious corps, a member of the Curia, and one to watch. There are questions about his time as Bishop of Chiclayo, so that may not help him. But if you were looking for a John Paul II third, this man is possibly the only one that of the American cardinals that you could say is a possible one. Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Cardinal Secretary of State. Never held a pastoral role in the church. Never was a parish priest, diocesan priest, archbishop. No pastoral role in the church whatsoever. Has only worked in the Curia and Vatican diplomatic work. Secretaries of state don't usually be elected popes. Just so you're aware. They're not usually elected popes. So the last one was Pius XII, the wartime pope who had extensive understanding of politics. I mean, who had been nuncio in Germany and in Prussia, etc., etc., and he becomes pope after Pope Pius XI died. But I mean, he was a wartime pope. But generally speaking, they're not popes. Secretaries of states generally don't become pope. He supported or gave some support to fiducia supplicans, and if elected, he would continue Pope Francis' synodal work, but with much more moderate church governance. He wouldn't be as erratic as Pope Francis was. But I would be surprised if he stepped out in the loggia. Not that I say it can't happen, but like, what leadership is he going to really bring to the church? What is his standout? What is his standout service to bring to the church? I mean, it'll be interesting. I'm just saying. As I said, he has purely been a diplomat. He has never worked in any pastoral role. And imagine, being pastorum, pastor of the pastors, and never actually having pastored a diocese or a parish or done pastoral work. He's pure diplomat, end to end. And a good one, but that's what he is. He would just be a caretaker pope. Things would tick along. But does he have the vision to lead? I wonder. Lazarus Yu Yung Sik, Asian Pope Pius X, somebody called him. I don't know, but he is prefect for the dicastery of the clergy since 2001, and I'm just putting his name out there. Could happen if they were looking for an Asian. Anders Arboris, Carmelite, Cardinal Bishop of Stockholm. Many people have said, watch this man. Many people have said. Pope Francis made him member of the Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity. He's a convert, he's a Carmelite, he's deeply spiritual. He could be the saint that the church is looking for. And especially when it comes to that topic of union with God, which I often speak about, he is definitely somebody to watch. So, I'm putting Our Lady of Mount Carmel there. Let's see where this goes. I'm just wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if he stepped out in the lodge. I wouldn't be surprised. I think he would be an excellent choice. Angel Fernandez Artime, he's Spanish. He is pro-prefect for the dicastery of Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life. He was rector major of the Salesians from 2014 to 2024, first Spaniard to hold that office. He was previously provincial superior of Salesian province in Leon, 2000-2006, and South Argentinian province from 2009 to 2014. Fernandez holds a bachelor degree in pastoral theology, philosophy, pedagogy from the University of Valladolid, and he's one of 5 Salesian cardinals. He is the only one who is a member of the Curia. He is 64, and he is certainly papabile. And I suppose I'm going to put that little picture there of that image, that vision that Don Bosco had of the Eucharist and Our Lady, and just leave it there. If he steps out from the loggia, remember this podcast. Who knows? But as I said, he has pastoral experience, he has leadership experience. We'll see what happens. Dominicans, I mean, there's a lot of talk about Radcliffe and so forth, but there is the Archbishop of Manila, who, when he went to study in Rome, became a Dominican. Jose Fuerte ad Vincula, he is the Cardinal, Metropolitan Archbishop of Manila. He was born in 1952. Definitely somebody not to discount. Just one, if they were going to go for a if Tagle doesn't get it, don't be surprised if somebody like this stepped out into the lodge and people say, well, who is this guy? Never heard of him before. Just throwing this out there. Peter Turkson, he is often spoken about as a papabile. While he has extensive experience in the Curia and he was Archbishop of Cape Coast, he speaks English, Fante, which is a local African language, French, Italian, German, and Hebrew. But I don't think he would be elected. But again, I'm putting him in there because he's so widely mentioned as papabile. I suppose you can't really leave him off the list, and Peter and so forth. But some people say that there's this prophecy of the Black Pope, and people need to understand the Black Pope was Pope Francis. The head of the Jesuits is always called the Black Pope, and Pope Francis was the first Jesuit to become Pope, and so the Jesuits they actually have a vow of obedience to the Pope. So in reality, the top Jesuit was the Pope, the Black Pope. So Pope Francis was the Black Pope. So that's that prophecy fulfilled. It's people understand what I'm talking about. You understand it's not a derogative term that I'm saying Black Pope, Pope Francis. I'm just saying the head of the Jesuits, his nickname was the Black Pope, given the amount of power that he had. Cardinal Mateo Maria Zupi, Archbishop of Bologna. Normally, for centuries, for the popes, they would go to look to like major archdioceses like Venice or Milan, but we don't have cardinals in Venice anymore, and we don't have a cardinal in Milan anymore. So we have a Cardinal Bologna, and he is definitely somebody to kind of watch out for. But he is pretty liberal. He defended as fiducia supplicans. He's allowed blessing of couples in chapels in his diocese. Gay couples, like there's videos there of him giving the nod and the wink. They had a concelebration of priests and where they blessed a couple. So like I'm just saying, he is somebody to watch, but he is pretty liberal, and I don't see him. I mean, he could be elected. We've had one, but I'm just saying, God help us, God help the church. But who knows? Look, I'm just throwing that name out there.